Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lone Star Legacy. This is episode number 10, which makes the third time we've correctly said what episode number we're on.
No way is this 10. I said 5 last week.
Well, the last one is... I'm sorry, it's episode 9, so we still fucked it up. Because the last one is Lone Star Legacy 8 Bandstorm Harvey.mp3.
That must be including those pilot episodes we did, right?
It includes every episode that was publicly released.
Okay.
I'm Sam Craven. I'm currently drinking a gigantic rum and coke. I'm joined by another first-time podcaster. Seems like we have it almost every time. Welcome to the cast, Tim. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tim Everett. I'm currently drinking a fancy lawnmower by St. Arnold's because I did 0 yard work today. Well, I cleaned a dog turd out of the grass. Does that count?
That sucks.
That was work, and it happened in the yard, man.
That's a good day's work right there.
I mean, Ben should know. How big are the turds that your dogs drop?
Oh, that's a good week for me.
Tim, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself since you've never been on the cast before?
Yeah, so I've been playing Magic since about 94, but just real casual. And I guess about 3 years ago, I started going up to Asgard and started playing Legacy up there. And I guess I don't know if Merfolk or Belcher was my first real Legacy deck, but I've been currently playing a lot of Merfolk and in all the 3 formats.
2. There are 2 formats.
Okay.
Legacy, Vintage, Old School, 3 formats?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and then I'm Stu. I've been on the cast before, and tonight I'm drinking a Blue Owl Spirit Animal Sour.
Ooh, nice.
Who is your spirit animal, Stu?
I don't know if it's who, what. I gotta go.
Sorry, yeah, what? Mine is a person, but what?
Well, that's jarring. I don't know. There's a few, like, northeastern things, like a black bear I could maybe lean towards. I haven't discovered it yet, though.
My spirit animal is Wazoo head football coach Mike Leach.
The one who talks about aliens?
Yeah. Yep. Ben, go ahead so we can get to some Magic content.
I'm Ben Kendrick. I've been on the cast several times before. I'm not drinking anything right now, so...
That's unfortunate.
I got exiled to the bedroom because girlfriend's watching TV out there, so...
It's rough.
You gotta at least like text her to bring you a beer or something.
Yeah, that'd probably go well.
I've done that before, I guess. I shouldn't be the one to talk.
Yeah.
So today is, I guess, really this is like the worst way that I could have phrased this, to do a post-mortem on Saturday's Vintage tournament. I guess I'm used to the tech world where you do a post-mortem on everything, regardless of whether it was positive or not. So the first thing we want to talk about is we ran this big charity event. It did not start that way, so let's talk about how we got to that point. So as any of our regular listeners know, we host here in Houston, we host Proxy Vintage every other weekend. We've been really bad about it the last couple months because there's been things like hurricanes flooding the brewery and stuff. But in general, every other week we do Vintage. And Stu, being a part of the team, being in Austin where they don't do this, was really trying to get this started. And there was a lot of resistance. I think there was a lot of the thing where I don't want to show up because not enough other people are going to show up. And it's like, that's why not enough people are showing up. So we had kind of discussed having one of our usual dates be in Austin. That way, we'd bring a bunch of Houston people. We'd really ensure that this thing would fire. Does that about sound like the initial setup, Stu?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't want to shove words into your mouth. So, and then a couple weeks ago, Hurricane Harvey hit Houston and thoroughly butt fucked us. I know Ben had to evacuate.
Mm-hmm.
All of the Goifs did return safely home. The only person who had any damage lives in Austin, naturally. So after 3 martinis and like 4 White Russians, I was like, I'm going to take all my badass cards that I have trouble selling, put them in the prize pool. We're going to do this for charity. And put the word out, got a bunch of people said, hey, yeah, I'll throw in this, I'll throw in that, I'll throw in the other thing. And in the end, we ended up with a pretty sick prize pool. The prize pool was growing so quickly that at one point we said, okay, we're going to finalize the prize pool on Sunday and everything else goes to a raffle because, we can't have a tournament announcement that says, hey, this is what the prize is today. It might be something different tomorrow. And if I was better prepared, I would already have this image pulled up. But you can see all of what we got on our website, which I will try to pull up right now. Oh, God, no, I fucked it up. Anyway, if you go to our website, you can see our entire prize pool looks quite nice. And, yeah, and that was the kind of thing. We had Volcanic for first, Bayou for second, 2 Lilianas, and a bunch of other stuff to definitely get people out.
Which was 100% pulled from Sam and other people's collections, which was really cool.
While we're at who it was pulled from, let me go ahead and find our list of thank yous for people who donated. Matt Murray, Nick Patniot, Pat's Games, Austin, Patrick Brennan, Sean O'Brien / Team Tusk, Stu Ziarnik, and Tim Everett were people who donated cards and other things. So thanks to them. You can tell what it is that Tusk donated because it's all really badass foreign signed stuff, and I really wanted to intercept a lot of that on its way to the prize pool.
Yeah, so some of the stuff that they do, I was flabbergasted at some of the stuff that we were able to get from Team Tusk. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. Special shout out to them since they don't even live in Texas, so that was awesome. But yeah, all the local guys you threw and stuff was great. For reference, when you guys do these events on a bi-weekly basis in Houston, it's usually like a $10 buy-in. It's just cash payout. This time we raised the buy-in and had this prize pool, which I think just like really changed the whole feel of the entire thing. It felt like you were playing for much higher stakes.
Yeah, for sure. And that was the thing we really felt was it was actually going to help us was, separate from the fact that we were doing this 100% of the money to charity. Even if the money wasn't going to charity, it's a pretty high EV event to buy in $25 proxy vintage and have 2 dual lands in the top 4.
Yep. And we had some other cool stuff. Ben had a box of Eternal Masters and gave out participation packs to basically everyone there.
Oh, I forgot to list them on the donors. I just keep fucking the people who are in this chat. Yeah, we took everyone who bought an entry, got a raffle ticket for getting a pack, but we put the tickets back in. So it was like you had potential to get the whole damn box.
I won 5 of them.
Yeah, you won 5 of them and you donated them.
I won 5 packs, and the best pull was a Swords to Plowshares, so that was fun.
We had 2 good pulls. We had a Crypt and something else.
A Caracas, and Patrick pulled them both in 2 packs.
Nice.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Those are both mythics, right?
Yeah. 2 packs, 2 mythics.
Jesus
So yeah,
Christ.
as the hype started to build for this, we wound up recruiting, I think it was 21 or 22 players all told. I think we did I won't say admirable, we did a solid job marketing it by the standards of Magic events. I think a lot of people have a beef with Magic events for not marketing themselves well, so they never know about them. And for this being relatively short notice, we got a solid turnout.
Yeah, I'm the one who's constantly publicly bitching about how poorly Magic events market themselves. So I was quite pleased with the turnout, especially because with 21, most of the Austin people mentioned we really didn't have a lot of the Austin crowd. So to get 21 and not get the core crowd, I think is pretty good. And there was also a PPTQ that day. So 21 feels real good for an event like this.
Yeah, so that was basically, we made posts on the Source and the Mana Drain, our Twitter account, I think a few different Facebook pages, right?
Yeah, and I believe you had Pats and a couple other people put up some flyers. Is that correct?
Yep, we had some flyers up, and then I texted a bunch of people who I knew from playing Legacy to let them know about it, to try to get like just that extra boost. So
yeah, and we did have a couple first-time Vintage players.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe this is the first tournament where we have not had a first-time Vintage player win a match.
I guess that's more likely when you have more people, maybe. I don't know.
But he also showed up without a deck, and so that's always going to be troublesome. Like, you're going to have to learn your deck in the 5 minutes before round one. So it happens.
He borrowed a proxy deck from Stu, and it just happened to be my Oath build from Eternal Weekend last year. And I was like, well, I'll give you a 2-minute primer on it, but
yeah, and so it was also a year out of date.
Mm-hmm.
At least it didn't have any newly restricted cards in it. At least one deck I brought was not legal in the format.
Yeah, there weren't 4 probes or anything.
So, real quick though, while we're still on the pregame, we hosted this at Fourth Tap Brewing Co-op in North Austin. So, sticking with our playing at breweries, Stu, do you want to talk a little bit about the process of getting a third party on board with this?
Yeah. I think we knew from the beginning that we were going to be doing it at a brewery, kind of regardless of the size of the event. I play Legacy with a couple guys who used to work at Fourth Tap, and they've talked about in the past the idea of organizing a Magic tournament there, and I don't think it ever happened, but I knew that was a possibility. So when we decided to actually make this happen, I emailed the events coordinator at Fourth Tap and told her we were talking about setting up a tournament, and she was very much into the idea. I mean, the thing is, for a brewery, most breweries, I think, have a lot of space available since they're just a big factory layout with a bunch of picnic tables usually. So they're never, unless they have their own special event going on, they're never going to be full up. So getting a bunch of people in here into a brewery and just buying beers over the course of a number of hours, I think, is always going to be appealing to them. So they signed on board for that pretty quickly. And it worked out well, which is, I guess, lucky because none of us had ever been to the brewery before the day of. So
some faith.
Yeah. I mean, I think I had their beers before, so I knew their beers were good. And so I feel like at a minimum, all breweries are at least acceptable to hang out in. And their space ended up being great for what we were doing.
Yeah, for sure. And then they were, I didn't get the response emails. I helped with the sending out emails, but it seemed they were very receptive with the idea of, we want to do this for charity and we want to do a raffle, which, might be something questionable about hosting a raffle. And they seem to have basically no problem with it, which is great because, there's just more money in the pot. Our final number, by the way, was $922.
Yeah. Yep.
Which, once that clears banks and stuff, we will post a receipt that shows that Sam didn't use all this money to buy Hookers and Blow.
You did spend $922 on Hookers and Blow that night, though, right?
I don't recall at this time, Senator.
Yeah, so Fourth Tap was awesome, and definitely a shout out for them for giving us the space and putting up with us over the course of. We were ultimately there for at least 9 hours. I think we showed up to set up right when they opened at noon and left sometime after 9.
Yeah, we made a couple mistakes that made the tournament go a little bit longer than it should have, but we were there a long time. They basically didn't care at all. I don't know if they were giving us special treatment, but my tab was real small for how much I had to drink.
So was mine.
It's not unusual for the people who helped organize it to end up getting a little discount, but I remember tipping at least 50%, and my credit card says that my bill was $27.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't add up for me when I check my balance either. So I don't know, but I've thought about if we do more of these in Austin, trying out some other breweries, but Fourth Tap worked out really well. So there's a part of me that wouldn't mind just kind of staying loyal to them.
Yeah, and they were a good venue, and it kind of depends what your relationship ends up being with them. At Brash, when we went back to Brash, we walked in, and Eddie, the bartender, just threw up his arms, was like, "Yes, you're back!" and they think it's super cool. Eddie, I just shipped him a shirt last week. He had been asking us to get him a shirt. He comps us a crowler of beer for first place. He actually asked Patrick to teach him how to play Magic, so we've gotten a really good relationship with them, and maybe you'll stick with Fourth Tap for a while, and maybe that won't work out after a while, you move on, whatever, but cultivating that relationship is definitely worth your effort.
Absolutely. Yeah, so these are all just takeaway points for any listeners who might be interested in setting up their own event at a brewery or really any venue.
Yeah. And anyone who is interested in that, we have an episode on community building where we talk about this a little more in depth. I've also posted about it a couple times on TMD because people have asked for help. And feel free to reach out to us because I'm always happy to help grow the community.
For sure. So yeah, that was kind of what the setup process looked like for it. So what ended up happening is this event was this previous Saturday. On Friday night, a couple of the guys from Houston came down. Then Saturday morning, the rest of the people came down. We all went out and got some breakfast tacos, and then showed up, like I said, at the brewery right when they opened at 12 to get everything set up. We had people funneling in over the course of the subsequent hour, and again, I think our final head count was 21 guys, which was enough for 5 rounds, right?
Yep. It was 21 guys, and it was 21 people. There was a non-guy person.
That's true.
And that also ranged, this is a thing I was really excited about, that ranged across cities. I know we brought at least 5. There was at least a couple people from the DFW area, and I didn't hear anyone say it, but I believe we also had some people from the San Antonio area.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but I thought we might have.
I know we have someone who reached out and said that they were sending a bunch of people from San Antonio, but none of them came up to me and talked about the fact that they came from San Antonio. So I don't know.
Yeah, there were 2 guys that came from San Antonio.
Okay, nice.
Cool. And for those of you not from Texas, to give you an idea, San Antonio is about an hour from Austin. Houston's about 2.5 if you drive like I do, and Dallas is about 3 hours. So not an inconsequential distance.
No. Yeah, so it was 5 rounds. Beyond that, my memory of the entire event is pretty hazy. So
Stu won drunkest, that's for sure.
Stu was so playful.
Yeah, I was having a great time.
You were having a great time until about a minute after you got out of the car when you got home.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it all went really well. So a weird thing is in general in life, I find myself, I always enjoy eating food, very much into food, and that gets magnified when I drink. But today of all days, or that day of all days, I didn't eat at all in the 9 hours we were there. But
ooh, that's always dangerous.
I don't know why I didn't. There was a food truck, other people were eating it, and I remember commenting on it looking good, and I just never went. So
yes. When we went out afterwards, I was we have to go to E6. We can't go to any of the other cool places because I got to go to my favorite food truck. I spent $36 at that food truck.
It was Eastside Kings, right?
Yeah.
And you were thinking about going for thirds.
I almost went back for thirds.
I get the beets.
Yeah, I got the beets and I got the buns. Unfortunately, they don't have some of my favorite things on their menu anymore.
Yeah, I've only been there once, and I think all I had was the beets. So.
Yeah, it's my favorite restaurant in Austin. So we want to get into the tournament.
Yeah. I think this is probably where you guys could say more than I could.
Like we said, we did 5 rounds, top 8. That ended up being a mistake. Normally we do Swiss +1 because we had real prizes. We wanted to do elimination rounds, and I, kind of not thinking about it, just looked at the MTR, which says 21 people is 5 rounds, top 8. Well, we only had prizes to top 4. We should not have been cutting to top 8. Ended up being interesting because half of the people who would not have made top 4 made top 4. So that made for some interesting things. I'm just going to read off the deck list real quick, if that sounds all right with y'all.
Yeah.
All right. First to last or last to first? I'm not sure.
Last to first.
Last to first. All right. Last to first was Ben's Oath deck from last year. I know that this guy said at one point that the Oath package was the worst 10 cards in his entire deck. It's this deck is awesome except for the part where it's playing Oath. In 20th place was me with 2-card Monty. I had a very bad day. Blue-Red Delver, this was a guy he probably could have placed higher, but he dropped as soon as he was no longer eligible for prizes. It's a very cool build. He's playing Monastery Swift Spears and things like that. It's closer to a legacy Blue-Red Delver deck than it is a vintage Blue-Red Delver deck, or at least a traditional one.
Yeah,
Blue-White...
played him second round. Yeah, cool guy. Tweety.
Yeah, Tweety. He was a very cool guy. He was playing like all like signed foils and fake power, proxy power, not fake power.
He does own real power, though. I know he's one of the regular vintage guys here.
Then blue-white Landstill, which I spelled incorrectly on our website. Oath, White Eldrazi, Hate Bears. I believe this was a 3-color deck. Let me pull it up real quick. Now this looks like this is just green-white Hate Bears. Pretty standard list.
Powered Hate Bears?
Powered. I don't know. Let me pull it up again. Well, yep. I'm just looking for ones on here. Ones means powered, right?
Yeah, usually.
It was powered Hate Bears. 14 was Stu with Null Rod Shops.
Oh, yeah.
13 was our accidental judge. This is David Hibbs. He's a level 3. I believe he's out of Austin. Is that correct, Stu?
I don't know. I don't think I'd ever met him before, so
I've worked
from San Antonio.
I've worked with him a few times at Asgard, and one of the things he did is he showed up in a judge shirt, and we were like, hey, is that you offering to judge? And he was basically like, yeah, I figured I'd wear it, and that way, like, if anyone has a rules question, I can answer it, and I, have some authority, basically.
And shout out to him for that.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool. He played what he labeled as Baleful Control. There's a Moon Stompy deck. It's got some sweet proxies. Check our site. We've got some pictures. Another blue-red Delver deck. This is more of a, I don't know about traditional, but a recent vintage blue-red Delver deck. 5-color humans, Ravager Shops. I didn't know what to label this one in 8th place. I called it Blue Moon. He did not put a deck name on here. It is playing Consecrated Sphinx and Blood Moons.
That's Blue Moon.
Yeah. I think that's about it. That's enough to make it Blue Moon. Salvager's Oath. This is our friend Nick, who he frequently plays a deck that I call Comboth, where it's just like every combo you can imagine in an Oath deck. So he had
Thought Lash at one point, right?
Yeah, like he's got Salvagers in here. He's got a Labman in the side. He used to like Oath up a Labman, then Oath again, and be like, go to draw for the turn. And he stopped doing that because I was playing blue-red Delver all the time, and just be like, before your draw step, I'll bolt that thing. After that, that's, by the way, 7th place. So we're top 8 is now Blue Moon, Salvager's Oath, Grixis Painter, really interesting Painter's deck. Kind of like a Grixis Welder deck with Painter. Ravager Shops. I flipped these on the website, which I will fix. Ben with Tez Oath. I think you labeled it as Combo Oath, which I disagree with, and I called it Tez Oath. In 3rd, Tim with Merfolk, and then our final was Stephen Whitehead, who he was quick to point out he's not a Fomor Tusk, but he was Tusk adjacent. He said he never got a shirt, but he did play with them. He was playing Bug, and then in 1st place, and I'm so happy because this tournament is big enough that it counts for so many insane plays stats. In 1st place, Dredge with Hollow Man.
Yeah, that was cool. And he was also, 1st place was this guy named Chris, who was a nice dude, and he just moved to Austin like last Thursday.
We were joking, especially in the top 8 where a bunch of people were standing out watching. It's like, man, I don't know if I heard that story enough because everyone wanted to know what his deal was. And he's like, I just moved to Austin on Thursday. Oh, really? When did you move to Austin? I just moved to Austin. And then Stuart, being a drunk asshole, was like, man, did you hear about that Chris guy? I was like, yeah, man, I heard his story like 12 times. He just moved here on Thursday. And he goes, you want to hear it again? Stu had a good time.
Yeah. On Sunday, I said I wasn't going to drink again for a while, and then like on Monday, Jess was like, "Oh, you want to get a drink after work?" So,
I completely expect. So you texted me at noon. I was already home in Houston. I was like, I assumed that you just woke up.
No, I hadn't actually. Somehow, I wasn't super hungover. I was hungover enough that I said I was never drinking again, but
that's always a lie.
I was still functional. So yeah, it was awesome to see Dredge take it down. I don't even know if people skimped on their hate. I had 7 pieces of Grave Hate in my board that day. So, and he ran over me. So
I was playing main deck Leyline in the Void, so wasn't my fault he won. I will say, and we've got some pictures of this on the site, as I said. He won through a turn 0 Leyline and like a turn 2 Graph Digger's Cage on game 2.
Hollow Man.
Yeah.
Hollow Man, yeah.
Hollow Man is the real deal.
Yeah.
Coming out of the sideboard, it's very good.
Yeah, and that was one of the things he said is it was out of the sideboard, and he thought that was correct. That it's a thing you want out of the sideboard, not in the main.
Yeah, that Dredge main deck is so finely tuned just to run over everybody game one. I don't think
there's what, 4 flex slots maybe.
Right, and I mean Hollow Man is good. It's great when there's Grave Hate out, but it's a little lackluster when you're not trying to fight through hate. So it's perfect for the side.
So one thing I do want to point out on this is I know most of us, I mean, people like mentioned it. We're not out here to win this tournament. They were here to support the cause, have some fun, play vintage. So multiple people said like, oh no, if I was trying to win this event, I'd be playing a different deck. I'm here to have some fun. So that does make our results a little different. Is that true for y'all? Did y'all play decks for fun, not to win?
No, I played to win.
Yeah, I played to win as well.
I was playing to win, but I intentionally picked a fun deck. That's my normal deck too.
All of the work that I put into this tournament was organizing it, and then I played the deck that was already in my backpack.
And two card money it's a good deck, and sometimes it gets there. And
sometimes they go turn 1 null rod.
Yep.
Another thing I'll point out about these results: top 8 is in TC decks. But I have scans of all 21 deck lists are on our site and on the Mana Drain, so you can see every one of these decks. We do this because we really want to encourage people to be able to see, like, this 5-color humans deck didn't make top 8, but we want people to, there is deck list. If this is the thing you're thinking about building, here's an example deck list.
So part of the reason that we have Ben and Tim on today is they were the 2 highest placing members of the team in the event, with Tim coming in 3rd and Ben coming in 4th. So since Sam really just didn't accomplish anything, and I came in
bullshit. I raised $922 for Red Cross. What did you do?
We all did. I bought $60 of raffle tickets for Red Cross.
Stu won the raffle so many times that he just stopped accepting prizes. And at one point, and this is when he was very drunk, I just go, Stu, pick the Dark Rituals and give them to me. And he did.
Yeah, which is so dumb because I even needed Dark Rituals. But I'm happy you have them.
As we said before, Stu won drunkest.
But yeah, so Sam and I didn't do too hot, but Ben and Tim probably have more strategic insights into what it might take to do well in this format. To reiterate, Tim was playing Merfolk, and Ben was playing, it's basically Bug Oath with Tezzeret and Time Vault in it.
Hey, do we want to do Tim first? That way we can do things like go over the deck list so we don't have to go back and forth a lot. Will that make things easier?
Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, Tim, do you want to either kind of walk us through the event a bit or tell us about the deck you were playing?
Yeah, so I've been playing Merfolk for quite a while, and I've actually been playing Merfolk in Vintage almost exclusively for the past few months. I like how it can be so controlling, and it can sideboard into more of a controlling thing. And sometimes all you got to do is just counter a couple spells, land a true name, and then start beating down. It's my favorite deck in Legacy, so I kind of know the tempo of the deck and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say looking over the deck, not a lot of. I mean, there's kind of like Dredge. There's not a lot of room to mess around with this deck, or if there is, you're cutting something that's probably better. So I'm just going to point out the things that are particularly interesting to me. 3 Null Rod. Null Rod's pretty standard, but 3 instead of 4 or 2. I see 2 and 4. I don't see 3 a lot. I don't know if that makes a difference. Does it, Tim?
3 in the main seems fine enough, and 1 in the side. Yeah, that seems like enough. Yeah.
Other stuff in here. You've got 3 Days. That's another one that I think usually I see 2. Just because, Days is a card that, especially in Vintage, loses value very rapidly. Is the The 3 days obviously is working out pretty well for you, though.
Yeah, the main reason I ran 3 is because it's so bad in the late game that I just wanted to have another chance to just counter a crucial spell early, and I ran enough islands where I felt comfortable running 3.
Then you got 2 Echoing Truth. I imagine this originated as anti-pyromancer and monastery mentor hate, but you've kept it in. Is there anything specific you're really looking to fight with this Echoing Truth?
So yeah, this is the exact list that I played at the Invitational, and at that point I was worried about mentor tokens and stuff like that. But this time, just kind of like a catch-all, since I didn't know what was going to be going on in the meta. Like Ensnaring Bridge just completely hoses me, so I wanted a couple outs to that.
Interesting. So would that maybe turn into something else with a little more consideration?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not sure where the deck goes from here. It's maybe just switching up a couple things here and there for Eternal Weekend.
I would imagine Steel Sabotage is probably a top contender for that slot, yeah?
Yeah, and with I'll have to take a look at the metagame, but I think cutting a Ceremonious Rejection for an Annul in the side is something I'd like to do.
Nice selection.
Wait, what's the difference between those?
Ceremonious Rejection is a single blue counter target colorless spell, and Annul is a single blue counter target artifact or enchantment.
I mean, I guess with the Thorn restriction, we were talking about this on the last cast, but I guess colorless Eldrazi is probably going to be much less popular.
Is there an enchantment you're specifically wanting to target?
I can think of one.
I think there's like 6 people in the tournament can think of one.
I hadn't even considered that. I was thinking of being reactive to things that are opposed to you. And then the last one, a card that is a personal favorite of mine that's interesting, at least in the main, is Misdirection.
Yeah.
Did you get some?
Only been able. I think no. I actually never saw it in the entire tournament. But goddamn, I've only done it once, and it was against Sam. Misdirecting an ancestral. Jeez.
I probably high-fived you, right?
Yeah, you loved it. Yeah. We actually laid down the cards, and you're like, gotta get a picture of this.
Oh yeah, so that's somewhere in my Twitter history amongst the shit posting. Yeah, well, the reason I love Misdirection, especially in paper, like 2 years ago, was Misdirection used to be like $120 on Moto. So you get people who practice a lot on Moto, and you could misdirect them and just have such a blowout. And like I had this guy at a GB Houston side event where he's like, recall, I'm like, misstep. He's like, misstep, you're misstep. I'm like, misstep, 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 misstep. And he's like, misstep back. And I'm like, this is so fucking stupid. Or maybe he flush storm or something. And I brainstorm and it's like, misdirection your recall to me. And he's like, and he just looks at it and he picks up the card and he goes, I forgot this card existed. I'm like, cool. Resolves? He's like, yeah. I'm like, draw 3. I don't care about, like, counters? Sure, you countered all my shit. And it's like, all right, cool. Pass turn. I'm like, end of your turn, recall myself. And then sideboard, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 1 Steel Sabotage, 3 Cage, 1 Surgical, 1 Tormod's Crypt, 1 Ravenous Trap, 3 Hurkyl's Recall, 1 Norrod, 2 Flusterstorm. Anything of note there for anyone?
The 3 Cage.
I think the 3 Hurkyls was way too much. That was before I had made this list before the restricted list, and yeah, that's just too much. I ended up bringing in none of the Hurkyls all day.
Just didn't hit a shop stack?
No, I didn't.
How did you settle on your grave hit? Like, Cage is obviously awesome. How'd you settle on like Singleton Surgical, Tormods, and Ravenous Trap?
Just diversity. Just being able to do 3 different things along the way. I think maybe Surgical is not that good just with Mental Misstep everywhere. Maybe switch that out for a... I don't know.
I think the real advantage that Surgical gets you, at least in the Dredge matchup, which is, what Graveyard Hate is most focused against, is the stuff that Cage doesn't hit, which is Bridge from Below.
Right.
Because I've definitely done the thing where like Cabal Therapy like sees surgical and whiffs, and I'm just like, nah, man, keep dredging, keep flipping those bridges. I'm gonna. So yeah, cool. Anything you want to add about what the tournament was like specifically for Merfolk? I assume this is more or less what you're playing at Eternal Weekend. Are any changes that you know that you want to make thus far?
I think there's going to be a couple slight changes. The Hercules, the 3 Hercules in the side is definitely going to change. Not sure about the 2 Echoing Truth main. That's another little flex spot. As far as the creature package, I felt really good with. As far as the tournament went, it was really good, man. I was playing well for the most part. The deck was running well. I played the eventual winner of the tournament, Chris, round 2 or 3, and he mulls 2-1 both games.
Which I believe the odds of that in a single game with serum powders is something like 99.97 against.
I think it's closer to like 90, 96, 97, but it's astronomical over 2 games.
Oh yeah, over 2 games it's got to be just insane.
Yeah, and he
still got there
though. Game 2 with 2 cards. He found a serum powder, but then ended up that whiffed and then went to 1 and. He took it in stride. He knows he's like, man, I signed up for this, so.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, I kind of feel bad for you. So Tim, like I said, I kind of think we probably shouldn't have gone to top 8, but the MTR says that when you announce what you're going to cut to, that's what you cut to. And I announced it and realized like immediately that it was dumb. But that's what we went with. And Tim went into top 8 with the 1 seed. And then he lost to Dredge, which came into top 8 with the 7 seed, so he shouldn't have even had to play it. I'm sorry, with the 8 seed.
Yeah,
4 seed? I can't read my own handwriting. Either way, I'm pretty sure that guy wasn't in top 8 contention. So, yeah, and that was one thing you said before we came on that I was really happy with is, we're really, especially our group, a lot of us are really just trying to have fun, and that's what you did, right?
I definitely had fun.
Yeah. I would apologize to you by like giving you a pimp card, but this is a motherfucker who plays revised basic islands and shit. So like the pimpest card I could give you would be like to give you a US dime.
Oh god, that island is so perfect and beautiful. I love it so much. And the only time I play it is when I'm playing a deck with fetch lands. Otherwise, I'm playing Venus Island.
So for your troubles, Tim, you ended up winning a signed Russian Liliana from Team Tusk. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Thanks to Team Tusk. It's really awesome. And now I just got to spend another $300 to get a playset.
Well, I was gonna say, you need to spend like another $3,000 to play that in a deck, right? Unless you're gonna play it in EDH.
Yeah, I guess.
Any other good raffle takeaways for you, Tim?
Actually, I only won a single raffle, and I got a signed Enlightened Tutor.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah,
it's pretty sweet. I'll buy that off you.
I think I'm
You're good?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually one thing that we thought about going into the tournament is most of the time when you play a tournament for cards, you're playing at a shop, and they will buy it from you. I'm not going to buy my Volcanic Island from you. That's not going to fucking happen. And, that was kind of a little bit of a concern for me was, some people don't want to play for a card they don't need. I mean, I've got to play a set of Volcanics. Me winning a Volcanic doesn't help me. But pretty much everything we got is pretty liquid. Because it's either something like, a Volcanic Island is going to move on eBay in a second, or it's stuff that's exceedingly rare. I mean, like, how many, I think this is T-Chinese signed Gilded Drakes could there possibly be?
Yeah, I was really bummed that those were still around when I won mine. Because it was 2 of them in that one slot, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we had some cool stuff. I appreciate Patrick picked something up and was like, this is the most valuable thing. And I was like, nah, bitch, you have to pick the SS Tusk, which is a Korean Thrag Tusk that says Team Tusk Harvey Relief 2017. He was like, oh yeah, that's definitely the most valuable card in the prize pool. Now he has to build Nick Fit.
And then Ben, you wound up coming in fourth there. So any thoughts on Oath or the event?
Yeah, I mean, well, I picked Oath because I have experience with Oath, and I figured this is my first time playing post restriction, and I've always thought, or I read somewhere, I should say, not I always thought, that when there's kind of a shakeup in the format like this, you want to play a deck that's asking questions, not a deck that's trying to provide answers. So I didn't want to try and play like something controlling or something where I have to really guess the meta or guess what other people would be playing. So I'm like, let's just play some freaking Oath of Druids, put a Grizzlebrand in play. It pretty much beats anything when it's in there, and we'll roll with it. And
Ben, you're sounding really smart right now. You might need to replace me as the guy who says things for us in public. Plus, it takes you more beers to get drunk than me, so that's probably a positive thing.
Well, that's probably part of it, is that I'm not drinking right now.
I will say there's one thing. I always try to not have too much, because I've been on podcasts. I did podcasting with another cast for 2 or 3 years, to try to not have too many notes and too much pregame discussion, because that's discussion that we forget to bring onto the cast. And I rode with Ben, so I had 2.5 hours, about at least half an hour of which was this deck's construction. So someone who's not me needs to ask some questions once Ben is caught up and I stop interrupting him.
So yeah, this is it's semi brewed version of Oath. I've been playing a similar list for well over a year now. I played a similar list at Eternal Weekend last year. I just start with like your general bug Oath shell, where you have Grizzlebrands, Tutors, Oath of Druids, broken blue cards, and Time Ball Voltaic Key for the combo. And I got sick of losing games where you
had Grizzlebrand in play.
Okay, they get a Grafdigger Cage in play, and now hopefully I'll top deck a Show and Tell, or hopefully I'll top deck an Answer. So my theory was I wanted as many different ways to combo out as I possibly could. So there's 4 Oath of Druids in there. I also run 2 Show and Tells. That's down from 3 that I had been running. I'm also running a Tinker as well, which can get your Time Vault, your Voltaic Key, whatever piece you need, or Sphinx of the Steel Wind is one of my creatures. So it's just one more way to cheat a fatty into play. I managed to get 2 turn 1 Sphinxes during this tournament.
I love Sphinx of the Steel, and we had discussed this on the drive up. Is like, I personally believe at the moment Sphinx of the Steel Wind is the best Tinker bot. It's also a pretty damn good Oath target.
Yeah, I mean, right. So
it's no Grizzlebrand, but it's.
I can go into the your selection on Tinker bots for quite a while if you want, but so then there's also a single Tezzeret the Seeker, which obviously you tutor up Time Vault, or it also combos with Time Vault itself if you lose a key or your key gets misstepped. So there's just besides Oath of Druid, there's Show and Tell, there's Tezzeret, there's Tinker. That's 3 non-Oath of Druid ways to win. Also included, there's one of my creatures is Dragon Lord Dromica, which I shamefully stole from an Oath deck. Who won? Brian Kelly was it? I think won a.
I believe Dromoka is considered a Kelly innovation. Could you go ahead and read that for the people like me who their Oath deck is an Oath deck from 10 years ago, but with Blightsteel Colossus in it.
The Dragon Lord Dromica is a 5/7, can't be countered, flying lifelink. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. It costs 4 green and white. So to make this hard castable in my Bug Oath deck, I included 1 Tundra as well. In addition to Orchards and Mox Pro Black Lotus. So
I typed this list and didn't notice that.
Yeah,
you do also have the 4 Forbidden Orchards. So you've got 5 lands, a Mox, and a Lotus that can cast this.
Yeah, so I did cast it once during the tournament. I did get to hard cast it. I lost that game anyway, but whatever. But having the Tundra, it's so you have a fetchable way, because there's also 4 fetches. So I figure that's 4 Forbidden Orchards, naturally draw Tundra, or 4 fetches. That's 9 ways to get a white source right there. Plus Pearl and Lotus is what, 11?
Yeah.
So
it's a lot. It's one of it's enough that if you're going to cast something that costs 6 mana in Vintage, you're probably able to cast this.
Yeah.
You can also I don't know if you thought about this. That also gives you the ability to cast Sphinx of the Steel Wind, which has white in its casting cost. It only costs 1 more.
Yes, it does. I actually didn't notice that. That never came up. I have hardcast Sphinx of the Steel Wind before, but it was off a Lotus for white, and then the lands. That was a while ago. That was a fun game.
Yeah, that's
anyway,
improbable.
Yeah, that was very corner case. And then the other Oath targets Grizzlebrand because
how can you not have Grizzlebrand in your Oath deck?
Grizzlebrand should be one of your Oath targets.
But like a cool thing, I don't think you said this already, is what that means is all 3 of your Oath targets are life linkers.
Yes. So this is another big thing I found while playing Oath is I absolutely hate when you get an Oath out and they have lethal on the board and you're like sitting there going, oh no, if I hit my Emrakul, they're just going to swing back for the win. Or if I hit my Blightsteel Colossus, they're just going to swing back for the win. So all 3 of those creatures are intentionally very defensive so that, if you Oath, you flip Dromica's usually the worst one to flip. He's still a 5/7 lifelinker. They're going to have trouble running him over. So then next turn, you Oath again. You get another lifelinker out, and they're probably in rough shape at that point when we have 2 giant lifelinkers on the board. So all the creatures are basically designed to be time walks in addition to your win con.
Which I was impressed with. We jammed a number of games the night before the tournament of Shops vs. Oath. And
y'all need to stop getting all prepared for tournaments and shit. Y'all are making me look bad.
Well, we lose sleep doing it, so it doesn't really actually help us much. But yeah, I think the life linking is really, for a deck like Shops, that's it's super problematic.
Yeah, it's tough to get over. I did. I can't remember his name. Rob Connolly is his name. Also, special thanks to him for tagging a lot of people on Facebook and a lot of people interested in it. He's a Austin person.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I'm trying to find him in the pairings to see where he ended up. He's 12th with Moon Stompy, and a guy who shows up with Moon Stompy is probably not trying to win. He's probably trying to have a shitload of fun.
Yeah, we had a great time. We played round 2, and I just played turn 1, land Mox Oath, and he's like, okay, well, this is probably dumb. But he's thinking, I think he's thinking he can win off Fiery Confluences or what's it called, Ensnaring Bridge. So he's digging, nothing's happening for a while. I finally get a Forbidden Orchard, play it past turn back. He goes, oh, that's problematic. He goes, well, ride or die, casts Goblin Rabble Master, Goblin Rabble Master, Goblin Rabble Master. Swing 3.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, shit. So he did manage to run over my Oath targets. I Oathed out a Dragonlord Dromica, cast another Oath, and then he swung, and I had to jump with my Dromica against like a 10-2 Rabble Master.
This is wonderful. I did not become nearly good enough friends with this person.
So then the next turn, I had 2 Oaths out. So I'm like, all right, Oath twice. And there were only like a few. I got unlucky, and there were only like 3 cards left in my library. But I got Grizzlebrand and Sphinx, and we were sitting there like trying to do the math, and figured out that I couldn't actually beat him without decking myself. And
so this is the thing I wanted to bring up with the lifelink, doing the math, and I mean no insult to Vintage players, but when you throw lifelink into the situation, a lot of Vintage players are not used to doing combat math. A lot of Vintage players are used to, I have enough dudes to kill you now. And especially at a lower level event where people are not going to take the time, or at a high level event when people are worried about taking the time, a lot of times you can just win to people going, I don't know how to do combat math.
You could say the same thing for legacy players.
Yeah, I think less so for legacy players, just because there's a lot more attacking. Then there's Deathrite Shaman is all over the place, gaining life, and I think Grizzlebrand probably gets seen a little more.
Not when they have Island Walk.
That combat math is extremely easy. I can't block those dudes. I'm taking this much.
I know we all have a fun time like making fun of Modern, but if you want to improve your combat math skills, go like play a few Modern events, and I think
I was gonna say Standard or draft, where because in draft is where you're gonna see all these wacky creatures that are like 5/2 lifelink that you're never gonna see a 5/2 lifelink, and you got to figure out, okay, well, he's gonna gain 5, but he's gonna lose his dude, and you see all of this weird shit that you're never gonna see in a format like Vintage, because a 5/2 lifelink would have to cost 1 to be playable in Vintage.
Yeah.
Sad. But then it would just get misstepped.
It would get misstepped. It needs to cost 1.5.
So my one other Oath target out of the board is Elish Norn, which I've played Elish Norn before. She's really good against Dredge.
Yeah.
She's really good against a lot of quite a few other decks.
I mean, honestly, I feel like you could just say I'm playing Cyborg Elish Norn, and that should be enough explanation.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're using the correct gender pronoun.
Horribly bad against Oath. If you accidentally Oath her out in the mirror,
you can't kill your dudes.
All your tokens, so they're going to keep Oathing and you're not. So,
wonderful. Oh, there's one other thing I want to point out about your deck before we get to the sideboard. You mentioned that you're playing a Tez, and this is a discussion we had in the car, and I'm attempting to remember because I got drunk every night we were in Austin. One of the big benefits about playing Vault Key and Tez is if you never play Forbidden Orchard or Oath, and you win the game with Vault Key or Tez, they think you're playing Big Blue. They think you're playing an X-City Vault deck.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, you say you tinker out a quick Vault Key, and they go, okay, show me your win con. You go, oh, okay. And you get a Tezzeret, and just ultimate the Tezzeret. That's your win con.
Yeah.
Now they're going to board for Steel City Vault. There's some crazy big blue.
They're going to bring in their null rods and so forth.
And then all of a sudden you slam an Oath of Druids and you're like, oh, that's what you're up to.
I'm trying to think of an example that's as good as that in another format. And the only thing I can come up with, because it's personal, is I play Tin Fins, which for those of you, because this is an all Vintage podcast, I play Tin Fins, which is a Reanimator deck that wins with a Storm Kill, which means that it is vulnerable to both Storm Hate and Graveyard Hate. And in the sideboard, you run 4 Monastery Mentor, because you're just like, Monastery Mentor, Dark Ritual. Oh, you countered it? Cool, I made a dude. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's kind of a very similar concept.
Yeah, they're boarding out their spot removal. And
it's almost like...
You bring in a Mentor.
What's between a normal sideboard and a transformational sideboard?
Well,
that's what...
It's like Tireless Tracker and Land.
And a lot of times I board out the Vault Key package. I'll board out Vault Key and Tezzeret, especially against no rod decks. It's nice when they leave their no rods in or bring in more hate for Vault Key, or they start naming Time Vault with their Phyrexian Invoker, and you're just like, that's a freaking deck right now.
Well, yeah, and this is a thing that goes the opposite direction. If you go turn 1 Oath, pop up a Grizzlebrand, and just swing them to death, there's a good chance that they're not going to bring in their null rods and stuff, and they can be like, turn 1, 4 cages, and you're just like, cool, Vault Key, you lose. Mm-hmm. I will say my favorite example of this was I was comboing off with Paradoxical Oath, and I had like 28 cards in hand, and I go, and this was after I had Oath, and I go, will you concede to a revealed Vault Key? And this is a guy who, he's very grindery, and this is the correct answer. He goes, well, what's your win condition? And I just look at him for a second, I go, I have a Grizzlebrand in play. Because you got to remember to always ask that. You don't concede to a Vault Key if they don't have a way to kill you, but Vault Key with a Grizzlebrand in play is a pretty quick kill.
Yeah, and don't concede to a Vault Key when they have a Mana Crypt in play either.
Or a Bob. We had, I think it was Hibbs, played a old school big blue deck with Bobs in it.
Oh, nice.
So, same question I posed to Tim. What changes would you make to this deck? And there's kind of a follow-up question. Well, what changes would you make to this deck with our current knowledge of the format?
I'm still not sure where the vintage meta is going to adjust to. I might go down on a Flusterstorm since it's a little, it's got blank text against shops is one thing. And sometimes it's just not as good as you think it's going to be because you're sitting there waiting for Storm and then they just arrest the thing out of your hand.
On that note, Sean O'Brien just released a set of stats for how many dead cards against shops there are in the format.
Oh, there's quite a few. I always try and avoid doing that game one. I believe I have 4 dead cards against shops in your game one.
Which is...
mental misstep.
And 3 mental misstep. At least misstep can hit a soul ring.
Yeah, it's basically dead.
That's it. That is the only thing it hits.
It can be pitched to force of will with no negative effect.
There you go. I also usually find Yawgmoth's Will is not very effective against Storm, against shops, particularly in this deck, just because one Thorn screws up a Yawg Will so badly. I usually board Yawgmoth's Will out against shops. It's a in this deck. It's a lot of times it's win more, but a lot of times you're doing like I've just done Ancestral Recall, and then a few turns later you just Yawg Will Ancestral Recall. Just use it as
you're just like Lotus Yawg's Will, Lotus Recall.
Yeah. I mean, this deck has the ability to absolutely have blowouts with Yawgmoth's Will when you flip half your deck into the graveyard, but usually when you do that, you have a fatty in play, and you're probably going to win anyway.
This is also a thing we discussed on the podcast or on the drive. I'm currently working on a primer for Oath for the Mana Drain, and sometimes you even Oath just into hate if you have a Yawg's Will in your hand.
Yeah, I did that at Eternal Weekend last year. I had a Yawg Will in my hand. He had a Containment Priest out, and he had lethal, and I said, okay, we'll activate Oath, and I lose half my deck into the yard. Okay, you exiled my Grizzlebrand. But now I have a Vault Key in the yard, so I just cast Yawg's Will.
Yeah. Well, and the phrase that I used was essentially what you're doing is by oathing, you're drawing, in quotes, like a third of your deck. I mean,
another cool trick.
If there was a card that said draw a third of your deck that costs 2 mana, that thing would be restricted in a second, right?
Right. So another cool trick you can do is it's not exactly Yawg's Will, it's a show and tell trick, actually. Besides the obvious people miss, is show and tell in Oath of Druids.
I would say this isn't even a trick. This is a thing you absolutely should do.
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of people miss that line, though. If you think they have counter magic and you should cast show and tell, basically using it as a thought seize. If they have force of will, they counter the show and tell. Okay, cool, now we'll cast it.
Cabal Therapy, naming something that can counter me.
Right.
And this is also, for the few people that are into Legacy and are still listening to us, even though we've been all vintage, you should also be doing that in Sneak and Show. A lot of times you just want to be like show and tell, put in Sneak Attack.
Yeah. Yes, you absolutely do. So another cool one you can do is they have a Grafdigger's Cage out, and you have a show and tell in hand. You activate your Oath anyway, and it'll find a creature, and it doesn't put it into the graveyard, it puts it back on top of your deck.
Yeah, and then you draw it and you show and tell.
Draw the thing and show and tell it in.
Oh,
which is why Cage is not the best hate. Like, you still have the problem that creature is in their hand. Like, that's why Priest is better. That's why blowing up Oath is better.
Yeah. I mean, don't skimp on your Grafdigger's Cage again. So they're still very good, but
that card has gotten expensive because of that.
It's also one I do a lot, and I've caught a lot of shops players off guard with it. Is I'll usually leave a misstep or two in against shops.
Oh.
They're always boarding in cages, and they never expect you to mental misstep it.
You're playing 3-dimensional chess over here.
Yeah.
We're talking about doing that thing. They call it, the people who are smarter than us call it next leveling, which is you go, I know that you're going to bring in cages, so I'm going to bring in missteps. And then you can double next level and be like, I know you're bringing in missteps, so my shops deck is bringing in missteps because that card is fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's definitely the highest level of play.
I feel like... Go ahead.
Deck has a lot of weird angles to it like that. So
yeah, you have so many options. You can just Vault Key, you can Tez, and you can just like Tez, never show Vault Key and attack them with your Moxes. You can get any of your dudes out. You can just fucking cast your dudes. I think if you just fucking cast a Grizzlebrand, they're probably assuming you're on Oath anyway, but you can do that.
So the other thing that's really nice about that is it's really good in the Oath mirror. When most Oath decks are relying just on Oath, and you have all these other options plus Oath. I played the Oath mirror twice, and I think I won. Well, I won it both times, and out of the 4 games I won, I think only one of them involved oathing a creature in.
Yeah, it's kind of like Oath is your badass combo plan, but you can do cool shit anyway.
Right.
I mean, like, again, to go to Tin Fence, like, yeah, you usually want to reanimate Grizzlebrand and pay 1 or 2 mana for him. But I have just like first turn been like ritual Grizzlebrand.
Yeah.
Taste it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the deck, and I had a great time playing it. I think it's I think Oath is going to be a little bit on the comeback here because it was a little bit oppressed in the previous meta by the Mentor decks, and the meta looks very healthy.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask. Is kind of I know this is not super reflective of the meta as a whole, but how do you feel after this tournament? Which is, I mean, 21 players is a big vintage tournament. How do you feel about the meta as a whole after this? Things seem healthy. Is there an angle that's not being attacked?
I thought it seemed great, much better anyway. It couldn't have gotten worse.
Stu,
so, we had what, one chopstick in the top 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, and only 3 out of 22, I think, were
21. So 1/7. So 1/7. So 12%.
Yeah, and no Mentor in the top 8.
Yeah, that was excellent. My big takeaway, other than diversity, was that Null Rod still seems, or especially seems, really good right now. With the exception of Dredge taking it down, it was just like I felt like there was a lot of decks that were either playing Null Rod and doing well with it, or that could get in a lot of trouble because of Null Rod.
Tim, you ain't said shit in a while. You got any input on this?
The meta seems. I mean, I don't know what to make about it at the point, but the representation that we had this weekend, it seems really, really healthy.
Yeah, I was very pleased. If I was trying to win this event, I probably would have put a little more work into it. I probably would not have played 2-card money, but I was very pleased with our turnout. And this is kind of a thing that I've been big on in my community building is vintage is not this thing that everyone pictures it as you just go like ritual, bargain, draw 20 million cards, fuck you in the ass, and you never took a turn. And this is a thing I can really point to is go, hey, look, we had like the top 4 prize pool was what, like $800, and we had Dredge, Bug, Oath, Merfolk, Shops, Painter, Oath, Control. That's a very fair top 8.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. The other thing I'll say is that, people have said that if this wasn't charity and they were taking it more seriously, they might have played better decks. But at the same time, like, people weren't playing joke decks. Like, all of these are still solid builds. People were.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you still had to win a lot of games to win this tournament. Like, so our winner, Chris Huckabee, in first place, to make top 8, you have to go, 3-2? So you have to win at least 3 matches. And then he had to win 3 more matches. So I don't even know his record, but he won at least 6 of 8 matches.
He was 3-1-1. I played him in the last round and drew.
Okay.
Yeah, he had the first round bye too.
That was my fuck. That one was my fuck up. Of many, that was one of my fuck ups. Hey man, when you run some shit not on the DCI tournament reporter and you're playing in the tournament and you're drinking beer, gonna be some tournament fuck ups. That's the way it works.
I mean, if he was the 21st player, he was going to have the bye anyways.
Yeah.
It is randomly assigned.
Right. So
But
say he was.
yes, someone was getting a buy. He randomly got it. Yeah, I'm pleased with the results. I'm pleased with our ability to present. Here's a lot of, this is a thing. I know this is ridiculous, and many people in our group have pointed out that I go way too far on us. But I have Goif business cards, which if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see now. And the reason I have that is because that way when someone's like, oh, you play Vintage, can you tell me about it? I can be like, here's all of our info. And this is, to me, like a great thing about this. I go, here's all of our info. Check out our latest results. There are 21 decks, and it's about 18 different decks you can bring next week. No comments.
Yeah. No, it's great though. It's good for advertising, good for building the community.
Any more comments on the tournament before I kind of have some more questions not about the tournament?
No, I think it'd be cool if we could do this again. It'll be an interesting challenge because a benefit of doing it for charity is that we could have a bunch of people who are willing to donate prizes.
You also have a bunch of people who are willing to show up to play a format they don't like, potentially.
Right. Whereas if we do another one that is not for charity, I mean, I think it's just going to have to be 100% cash payout, which I think if it's well marketed, we should be able to still get a good turnout. And likewise, my takeaway was that everyone had a good time at this. You know,
yeah, for sure, for sure.
It's possible we had some people, and I wouldn't really blame them, who made top 8 and didn't get a payout because they were in 5th through 8th. You know, other than that, I can't imagine anyone would be upset about how it ran, and if we did another event, they would come back.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad about doing the cut to top 8 with no top 8 prize. Like I said, that was because that is the correct cut for that number of rounds, but we didn't have a payout. Our payout was if we got 24, we would give out Snapcasters. A couple of people were like, hey, do you want to give them out anyway? And, I mean, I'll admit this is greedy Sam. I was like, you know what? I have a buyer for these already, so no, we didn't reach the number, so I'm going to keep them, and I'm going to sell them.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I also think that Vintage is, you know, you have a community of people who probably aren't grinding that hard for EV, and likewise, it's a 100 proxy event, so other than just paying for entry, your deck is theoretical.
There's essentially, I mean, you could almost think about it when you're hosting it at a brewery. You could almost think about it as cover charge that comes with the free tournament.
Yeah. So point being, I think I imagine everyone who attended had a good time, and we could probably do something comparable. But it's an interesting challenge to think about.
Yeah.
Organizing a charity event versus not.
I know you have a lot more context in Austin than I do, obviously, because you're in Austin. And one of the big points I would make to these people, which is a point that a lot of the Houston guys made, was just what gets people to come is the knowledge of the tournament fires. And you got to hit those people up and go, hey, man, I know the payout's not great. I need you to show up so other people show up. And that's why, I mean, Ben shows up all the time. Patrick shows up all the time. Tim shows up all the time. I mean, we had the Goy Invitational where we killed a 6th barrel of beer plus liquor plus other beer. And the next day, Ben and I were at Rudyard's on time at 1 o'clock. And I know it's because it's out of love for the format and love for the community, and that's the thing I think is really going to help. So the big question to you would be, are you ready to try and fire one after 2 more weeks? Which I guess would be not even 2 more weeks. That would be 10 days.
No, I'm not ready because I'll be in Japan. So
that's a piss poor excuse because I'm not driving up to Austin to run it for you.
No, yeah, I mean, I have to decide if this is something that I want to actually get it going on the same basis you guys have, or if alternatively I would just like to try to every, once
a month
or 2 months do something like this. You know, if every couple months the Goist did a similar event, and likewise every couple months the Eternal Struggle guys did an event here, that would be a pretty solid little scene. So it's just I have to decide what I want to commit to.
And some of it is when you say what you commit to, it's not just you showing up at the brewery at noon and staying till 6. It's all the other shit. I mean, I don't mean to jerk myself off here, but like I spend a lot of hours at this desk doing shit related to these tournaments because I want them to be successful. And it's stuff like, I mean, like I said, you go on our website, got the top 8 is on TC Deck, got the top 21. Top 21. All of the decks are scanned, and it's a lot of work, and I totally understand any reticence to do it.
So we'll see moving forward.
That was an SAT word, wasn't it?
Yep, so that was the event, and it'd be fun to do it again sometime moving forward. Maybe later this fall we can.
Yeah, I know for anyone in the Austin area or even San Antonio, because that's not that far. I mean, the San Antonio area is as far as driving from my house to Ben's house. For anyone in those areas, like if you're interested, hit us up. Really, show us some support. Because I know one of the things we were talking about was if we can really get this going, was once a quarter, Austin says, we're not doing it this week. Let's all go to Houston. Let's run a big event in Houston. And then once a quarter, Houston says, we're not doing it this week. We're going to Austin. Let's run a big event in Austin.
I think it'd be cool. Seemingly you guys made a positive impression on some people here, and there's a few people expressing that they'd be excited to go up just for one of your regular Sunday events. So
yeah.
I think if we could do something that's a little bit of a bigger deal, people would get to it.
Yeah, and that was one thing I was super happy about is I had a couple guys in a couple Austin guys who said, hey man, I want to come to some of your tournaments, and I don't want to say who it was, but one of them said, hey man, I will definitely donate some cards to your prize pool. I said, hey, I really appreciate that because prize pool's starting to run dry, starting to run into that point where we don't pay out 100% cash so I can buy out some more prize pool. And it was like, no man, I want to put some real cards in your prize pool. I want to put some big cards in your prize pool. I wasn't going to push for details on someone offering to give me something big, but I mean that shows you the kind of dedication that vintage players have.
Yeah, people are definitely excited for it, so hopefully we can build on that momentum.
So, any last notes on the tournament before we move on to the next thing?
Nope.
I had an awesome time. That's all I can say.
I'm glad, Tim. I'm glad you had a good time, because it rarely turns out that one of my drunk ideas works out. So we're on about an hour 10 on a single tournament in which none of us are giving tournament reports. So let's talk about meta. We can talk about the meta of this tournament. We've also talked about how this is fucked up. So here's the question I'm going to pose. I know Ben is not going. Tim is going. I am going. Stu, are you going to Eternal Weekend?
Yep.
Given this tournament, given what we know thus far, what would you bring to Eternal Weekend? And Ben, I will include you in this because you care about winning more than us, so you probably have a good answer.
Is this a hypothetical with an unlimited card pool?
With an unlimited card pool, because I think between the Goyfs and between friends of Goyfs, you have an essentially unlimited card pool.
Sure.
Tim, you want to go first? Because I know your answer already.
Yeah, I'm almost positive I'm going to play purple. If I really want to get itchy scratchy, I'm going to play Days and Doing Belcher. It's the most fun I've ever had playing Magic, is beating someone on their upkeep, casting like 3 draw 7s before they have a chance to do anything. I actually did that in a sanctioned tournament. That was pretty sweet. But Merfolk has been running so well for me that I think I'm just going to run that.
I think you will likely be more successful with Merfolk, but have more fun with Days Undoing Belcher.
Yeah, I know.
Well, fortunately, both Merfolk and forms of Belcher are viable in both Legacy and Vintage, so you can play one in one event.
And Modern.
And Modern.
I hope we're not running any Modern events at Eternal Weekend, because Modern is not an Eternal format.
Actually, there are Modern events at Eternal Weekend.
It's fucking bullshit. It's going in my angry email to the TO.
Wait, so I'm confused. As a side note, why is Modern not considered Eternal?
I know the answer to this. Eternal is all cards ever. So Eternal formats are Vintage, Legacy, EDH, Pauper. Modern is not Eternal. It is non-rotating. So if we drew a Venn diagram,
Oh, God.
non-rotating completely surrounds Eternal, but does not completely include. But not everything that is non-rotating includes Eternal.
That's a weird distinction to make, but okay.
I mean, this is also a distinction made out of hatred for Modern.
The distinction, I believe, is for supplemental sets, because they'll take like Conspiracy and say this is Eternal legal, but it's not Modern legal. So I think that's the only reason that distinction really exists.
Well, I think it is the everything ever, because Modern can say all standard sets since XYZ, And I mean, Legacy, even if Legacy banned every alpha card ever, it would still be alpha because the whole card pool is legal. We just banned it all. Unlike
future sets when they print them.
Yeah.
When they print, your heresies or any other weird supplemental sets.
Your bullshit iconic masters.
This is eternal. This is only eternal legal, and not modern legal. And modern has to go through standards or be modern masters.
So yeah, that's the difference. I lost my train of thought.
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess with the card pool I have, I will be playing White Eldrazi at Champs. But if I had an unlimited card pool, like honestly, probably just Ravager Shops. It's I think it's still really strong after the restriction, and as in a 9+ round event, I think it's going to maybe have some easier decision trees. So I think that's probably what I would play. My secondary answer would be maybe the Leovold decks that are getting a lot of attention right now. I think they look really strong. And well, I mentioned earlier that I like Null Rod, and they can do that if they want to.
Leovold spaffed all over the VSL last night, so expect to see it. What about with an unlimited card pool? You kind of limited yourself there. With an unlimited card pool with the desire to win.
Ravager Shops, definitely. I've been playing Null Rod Shops for a while, but I think Ravager Shops is the better build ultimately. And it's super aggressive. I think you're going to get a fair amount of free wins out of the deck, which is a good position to be in a long event.
Okay, Ben, assuming that you were able to go to Eternal Weekend, and you were not drawn to a cardinal sin, which is a football season wedding, what would you be playing? It's evil for two reasons.
It is. It was the worst. Still trying to break that couple up, but no luck. I think I would probably play pretty similar list to the one I ran this weekend.
Interesting.
I in these eternal formats, my normal theory is run what you know best, and I know of pretty well. So especially in this, this meta's horribly in flux, trying to guess the meta is probably a fool's errand. So
yeah, I think that if anyone is wanting to really spike, in stupid fucking air quotes, if anyone's looking to spike this event, the thing to look at is going to be less the meta and more the VSL right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the VSL will dictate a lot, at least in terms of people who have unlimited card pools.
Yeah, pick something that's individually strong and asks questions, not tries to answer things, and just go for it. Like if you look right after the Sensei's Divining top restriction, Sneak and Show took a little bit of a spike. Banning, sorry. Just because it's a powerful deck, you don't really have to know the meta. You just kind of go in there and slam it. And I think that's a good place to be in the months following a meta shakeup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which makes me feel bad. Like I said, White Eldrazi is what I'm capable of playing in Sanction, and that's very much an answers deck. That reminds me. I'm gonna have to tune the board a lot to get that together.
Tell Patrick Vincent I lied to him about what day it was because I told him what day Eternal Weekend was. And he goes, "I can't go. I have a wedding," and he did not finish the word wedding before I said, "Can I borrow your power?" Turns out I was wrong, so he can go. So let him know.
I'll talk.
Based on my history at Eternal Weekend, which is a sample size of 1, the answer to this question doesn't matter because I'm going to audible the day before. I'm going to go to Eternal Weekend to have
fans.
Well, I mean, hey, I was about to ask what y'all were going to play in Legacy. Hold the fuck on, Tim. So I have an outstanding publicly made offer from Sean of Team Tusk that he lends me a fully powered deck on the understanding that I do not look at what is in the deck until the players' meeting.
Lend him Dragon.
Yeah, I really hope that's it. That's gotta be it.
One of my concerns is that Sean owns a lot of cards in foreign languages, and that could become a real problem when I look at the deck list for the first time 5 minutes before playing it. I can also play something unpowered or borrow and be like, this is my bug deck that only has 1 piece of power in it because that's all I can borrow. There's also the possibility that I agree to Sean's thing and then lie and just take his power and shove it in another deck.
I mean, you've got to be able to borrow Dredge from someone, right?
I think Ben already said I could borrow Dredge.
You can also borrow my shops if you want. And I offered Tim my power already, but if he's only using...
I believe I'm taking your power to old school and then giving it to Tim.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever you guys work out.
That being said, the answer to the question, what would you play given unlimited cards? Tough. It's a coin flip for me right now. It would either be Ravager Shops or the other deck, which I played 4 fucking times in my Vintage League, is the new version of Mentor seems like essentially Big Blue with a Mentor, and you swing for 36. I would play one of those 2 decks. And I don't know which. I'll probably audible the day before. So my input is totally useless, and this has been a waste of 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So, do you guys want to do predictions of top 8?
Ooh.
Predictions of top decks or cards?
Guess the top 8 meta. And then we'll come back to this in a few months. And
I'm way too ignorant for this.
All right. The worst part about this is we're not going to bookmark this, and like a year later, someone's going to listen and be like, "Y'all guess the metagame wrong." Okay. Here's my guess. We got 8 decks. 3 shops. That leaves me 5. A Big Blue, 2 Oath, a Dredge, a non-shops null rod deck, a Mentor deck, and a Paradoxical, which I will leave as a variable. Could be Storm, could be Mentor.
That all sounds reasonable. I'll just throw in a land still in there since it won last year.
I mean, don't make me go on another rant.
I don't want you to go on another rant.
We need to just have a podcast where we just get me drunk and I just rant and people are like, actually, Sam was like, no, go fuck yourself.
Isn't that what your Twitter account is for?
Yeah, but that's 140 characters at a time. Not YouTube will let us stream this for 8 days in a row.
Yeah, that's tempting. Yeah, I don't know. I'll agree. There's going to be multiple shops. I think there will be a Dredge in there just because that's probably the most likely budget deck at the thing, especially if
I disagree. The most likely budget deck is Jake Odrazi now.
I don't agree just because Thorn is restricted. I mean, it might still be more likely than Dredge.
I mean, I guess our argument here is the definition of budget. There's a big budget gap between Jake Odrazi and Dredge.
Right. We get that there's X number of each cards in existence type thing where, the meta can't really be 5 times more shops than the cards.
Yeah, that's where we could also get into, if we assume all cards are free, our metagame positions probably change.
Yeah. There's much more Dredge and sanctioned paper events than normal.
Predictions, Tim?
3 shops, a couple blue decks, and I'm not actually quite sure what Big Blue means. I think it just means...
means drains.
Like a mana drain.
Okay. Yeah, one of those. And then a couple oddballs.
What's an oddball, like 2-card Monty?
And Merfolk.
We get the thing where for the second time, Ben Perry is asked to sober up before his top 8 match.
Well, give him go take a 5 out in the parking lot, man.
He's like, cool, drop a bunch of acid.
And take his flask out there.
So because our podcast is named Lone Star Legacy, we're going to have some token legacy coverage here and also make a quick prediction and discussion on the legacy half of Eternal Weekend. What do you guys think you're going to play at that?
I will be audibling at the last minute. Right now, I'm between practicing hard on Portent Miracles and practicing hard on Tin Fins. I think I'm going to end up going Miracles, and I think there's a strong chance I end up bringing Tin Fins, which is, again, not helpful at all.
I'm actually looking at playing a Show and Tell deck for Legacy.
What?
Like Show and Tell True Name Nemesis or Show and Tell Lord of Atlantis?
Oh, hit me up about this, Tim. I want to know everything.
Show and Tell Leyline.
The Burning Wish Show and Tell.
Nice.
Hold on, I want to rewind to this idea of Show and Tell Leyline. Because we can potentially turn 1, Show and Tell Leyline of Anticipation, and then on their upkeep, belch them.
Oh, no. awesome.
That's a real or show and tell Leyline of Anticipation on your upkeep. Show and tell Emrakul. I'll let you ponder this turn. That's fine.
This is my dream: is Lotus Petal, Lotus Petal, Lotus Petal, Show and Tell, Omniscience, Cunning Wish, release the ants, kill on their upkeep.
No lands in your dream hand.
My my non-sexual fantasy is to have a Leyline of Anticipation out and 4 lands or 4 mana sources, cast Standstill, holding priority, and in response cast Standstill.
Mana sources like Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual is a mana source.
Right. Well, that's you need 2 blue, so.
So that's your non-sexual fantasy. What is your sexual MTG related fantasy?
Please don't answer this.
Hellish Norn.
Gwendolyn de Courcy seems like.
I don't know if even her headdress can fit in my bedroom. So
Not with that attitude.
Ben, Legacy. What would you play if you were not at a Cardinal Sinner's wedding?
I would play Sneak and Show because I know it. If we're talking not what I'm experienced with, I would play Check Pile. I think it's the best deck right now. So
Deck is stupid.
Are you going to put it together?
yeah, about half my Check deck is in the mail getting signed right now. So once those come back, I'll probably give it a whirl.
Should I play Check Pile?
No.
That seems like a deck I can play really hungover.
Yeah.
Even-
And I need like a Badlands and 3 Leobolds.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of fetching and that
Yeah, but Tim, you got to keep in mind the kind of deck I usually play when I'm hungover, which is like exactly that.
All right.
I'm like the opposite. Most people get like they're like really hungover, like I guess I'll play Belcher, and I'm like I'm really hungover, like let's play Miracles.
That's awful. Yeah, why would you do that to yourself?
Well,
Fair.
anything else to add?
So top 8 for Legacy. What do you think?
I think this just give me like a blue mid-range pile
Yeah, I'm going with
and throw in like 1 D&T.
minimum 20 Deathrite Shaman. Minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minimum
Yeah, absolutely.
24 Brainstorm,
Yep.
Yeah.
which means 24 Force of Will.
Could be one.
Yeah,
Could
it
be
could
one
be.
fewer.
Could be Anna.
Which leaves 2 non-blue decks.
Yeah.
Lands, and I don't remember what was the top 8 last year.
D&T will probably be in
Yeah.
there. D&T was like all over the place at Eternal Weekend last year, so I'm expecting it to be there again. Maybe
Yeah.
it won't be.
We've also, I'm sure we will review soon. Once Inscalan is fully spoiled, we've got some rule changes that are relevant to Legacy that could change all of these opinions.
Yeah. So top 8, I'm going to say a Storm, a Lands, a Death and Taxes, 2 Grixis Delver, and 3 Check Pile.
Yeah, that's basically my exact feelings on it.
I'm just not super stoked about Legacy right now.
I'm not either. You know, it's a bummer. I'm one of the jerks who was pulling hard for a Miracles ban, thinking it would like move the format in a direction I liked, and it's just been like such a grind. I'm contributing to it by playing Maverick every week, but every week I'm just showing up and playing like against other mid-range decks. And
Are you at least playing 75 promo Maverick?
Oh God, no. We're on the original printings, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I think that's why part of the reason that I've been excited to do some of these vintage episodes is just because like playing vintage and talking about it is a change of pace from just like mid-range Legacy.
It's also, Sam puts on his marketing vintage hat. It's also a thing that's great for anyone who doesn't play vintage is that it's a change of pace that's going to be radically different from anything you're used to.
Yeah.
And it's just the best format.
I mean, I don't even know if that's true. Like, Legacy is actively balanced.
Okay, yeah. Vintage is my favorite format.
Vintage is, winning Vintage is more fun than winning Legacy. It might not be as rewarding as winning Legacy.
You want to talk healthy formats right now? So look at Modern. Modern is very healthy right
Yeah, it's awesome.
No.
I have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
The legacy meta is so bad right now that I prefer the modern meta. That's saying a lot.
And we're uniquely fortunate that we've got 36 regular legacy players. I mean, not all of them show up.
Yeah.
And a lot of them own everything. So like, we'll fire like a 16-person legacy tournament with one check pile in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll have a good time at Champs this year, but just like talking about what that top 8 is going to be, I think will also mirror what the play experience is. And the idea of playing 10 rounds against like check pile is just such a nightmare to me that I'm really just looking forward to the old school and vintage events. I guess I'll just like run double chokes in my board and hope that gets there.
The checks have done two things to me. They've birthed my grandpa, and they've released this deck. And of the two, the deck is by far my least favorite.
So we'll see. I mean, we could be wrong. We considered discussing Ixalan spoilers tonight, and I don't think we're going to really. But as a quick note, I don't foresee anything coming out in Ixalan that's going to make a significant change to Legacy. With that, I don't know what's going to happen between now and Eternal Weekend that'll really shake up the format much. We have a ban and restriction right before it.
That is the thing worth noting is they went after the restriction, said, hey, we're aware that Eternal Weekend is coming up and we will adjust Vintage accordingly, but they did not say that for Legacy. And that's one of those things that, that could be forgotten, could be in the implication that there's nothing to remember about Legacy. And it could be that, hey, 2 weeks before Legacy, or 1 week before Legacy, Deathray Shaman's banned, go fuck yourself.
I think we've said this in like every of the last probably 3 podcasts, but I don't think any of us are anticipating a ban in Legacy anytime soon, just because they were such a big one in spring. So I'll be shocked.
As they should.
Yeah, they shouldn't ban anything. I'm not excited about it, but that doesn't mean a card needs to.
Yeah, I mean, like, as an example, I went and read my entire blog today because I was really bored. And I wrote like 1,500 words on how Tin Fins plays after the top ban. And I was reading through and I was like, all of these are the exact things I would say about preparations you need to make for Tin Fins at Eternal Weekend. Like, the format has not changed significantly from the day top was banned. It has not changed significantly from what was expected.
Anyway.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Do we have anything else that we want to go over tonight? I think that's about it, right?
We'll talk about Ixalan when it's fully spoiled, maybe. I know that there's at least one card in Ixalan we want to talk about, and there is a major rule change that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
But it's currently 87.4 degrees in my apartment, and I am fucking down to get off this computer and take off my pants.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to be in Japan from the end of September through early October, so maybe you guys will do another cast while I'm gone. And then by the time I'm back, we're going to be right up on Eternal Weekend. It's like I get back like a week or so before it. So interesting to see if anything happens between now and then.
Yeah. I guess for Eternal Weekend, only things of note. Lots of us will be there. I think we're sending 5.
At least. There might be more.
Yeah.
If anyone wants a shirt, we let anyone get a shirt. I don't care if you get a shirt. If anyone's interested in a shirt, tweet at us at Texas Lurgwaves or email me, sam@lonestarlurgwaves.com, and we'll make those available so that they'll ship before Eternal Weekend. I don't think that matters. I don't think everyone who wants one already has one. But look for us. We'll be wearing shirts like this one that if you're on the audio podcast, you can't see.
Yeah,
trying to have fun, like
at tournaments or Eternal Weekend or whenever. Then come talk to us. Say hi.
I joke that like my greatest regret of Eternal Weekend last year was I did so well. I had so many people wanted to hang out or wanted to say hi. I was like, sorry, I'm live for the money. I can't hang out right now. So my goal is to go like maybe 4-3 or 3-3, and then drop out and start drinking at like 5.
I would like to get paired against someone from the team this year. That's my goal.
Your goal is to roll dice very well, basically?
Yeah.
Your goal is to roll 5 out of 400 or something?
Yep, sounds right.
I did that in the last round of Legacy and the last round of Vintage last year.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was
Oh, I remember. I had one more thing. Tim, if you play Merfolk, do we want to go with our previous bet?
Not previous. We need to make the ratio a little better.
For those who don't know, last year Tim and I were quite drunk, and I said, "There's no way Merfolk is going to win this event for GB Vegas." He's like, "Dude, Merfolk is totally going to make it." Like, he's like, "Yeah, dude, for sure. Merfolk in the top 8." I'm like, "Merfolk in the top 8, $10 against for sure." And somehow I let him talk me down to $10 against him making day 2 with odds. So he got 20 and I got 10.
And I missed it by one match.
And you missed it by one match, and it was all over our group chat. I was like, Tim owes Sam $10.
Well, he started 4-0 or 5-0 or something, if I remember right. And we were all talking.
I started 3-0, and then in the fourth round, I had a no-show.
And for anyone who's an official at Eternal Weekend, all of this talk is purely hypothetical, and we're definitely not gambling and trying to get Sean or Sam or Tim or Sam a DQ. For sure. All hypothetical and joking.
Oh, this is for parody purposes.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming on, Tim. It was good to have you on for the first episode here. Hopefully we can get you back on to talk more extensively about Leyline of Anticipation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
And we'll probably be back on another week or so when Ixalan comes out, and we can talk about like the 1.5 cards that are relevant.
Peeking Needle.
Yeah, Peeking Needle, and there's like the pseudo thirst kinda sorta.
Oh yeah, that one.
That counts as your preview for next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye, everyone.